Part One-on-One with Mr. Burgher.
Welcome to another episode of Art One-on-One. I'm your host, Nichole Jordan, alongside your professional artist and master educator, Mr. Burgher.
Yeah, back at it, hoping to discuss some great artworks and art-related topics, and I'm hoping that our followers and listeners also get something of benefit out of our discussions and the topics that we bring to light, and all of those things as well.
That's definitely some interesting artists today that we're looking at as far as past videos this week. We haven't been doing that as much, but looking at this past week, you had a video on the 5th Impressionist Art Exhibition.
Right, which I think is one of those interesting things where, like, people look at the Impressionists and they look at, they had these shows and exhibitions and they had their name out there, and I don't think that most people recognize that through that entire process of creating these shows and doing the things that they were doing, that there was a lot of conflict. There was a lot of artists that were trying to separate themselves from the Impressionists, people that were trying to kind of get away from the group.
Well, and that happened. There was a big transition in this one, obviously.
Yeah, a lot of the major artists that were affiliated are jumping ship, and they're trying to make their money at the salon as opposed to being in this exhibition. For some artists that works. For some of these artists it doesn't work. Hopefully individuals can go back into the show and the episode rather, and find out all that information. But to me, it's an interesting perspective, when you've got some people on board and trying to make it work, and some people not on board and leaving, and in the mix, you have a specific artist who thinks that he's being helpful, but he's really more of a saboteur of the Impressionists than he is really helping them out.
And you're talking about Degas?
Yes.
Okay.
And Degas is, a lot of times, most times, mislabeled, mischaracterized as an Impressionist. He never was. He showed with them, but he was not truly an Impressionist by style.
And he tried to kind of make that transition during this time, wasn't it? There were not very many Impressionists, not so much. He was trying to pull in new people.
Right. It was becoming less and less an Impressionist show, and more a show of artists that wanted to be independent from the salon. And just by nature of being independent from the salon, stylistically did not make you anything. And Degas was under the impression that it didn't matter. Calabout and Monet believed otherwise, and they made the decisions that they had to make in order to, to make the money that they wanted to make. And
Monet was one of the first to jump ship, wasn't he? Or was he the first?
No.
No?
No. He wasn't the first to leave. Renoir, Sisley, Cézanne, even though Cézanne also really wasn't an Impressionist, he was more of a post-Impressionist. But anyway, they were very unique circumstances for each one, but and why they left and that sort of thing. But so
it wasn't them all getting together and deciding this wasn't the right.
No,
individual.
They individually made the decision to not participate and went about their business. But I also think that You know, when you feel like an organization is going down a path that you can't get in line with,
right.
Okay, well, either you suck it up and you make it work, or you leave. And I think most people in that circumstance, you know, okay, well, I'm making my artwork, I'm doing my thing, you know, I'm trying to promote myself, I'm trying to make sales. I mean, I've got to survive, I got to pay my bills. And, you know, if I'm making art and I'm able to make it work with this group, then, you know, we can all prosper together. Or we can say, you know what, we just got to separate, and I think I could do better off on my own. And some artists were sucking it up and staying the course, like Pizarro, and some artists were saying, yeah, I'm losing money because I'm associated with you ding-dongs, like Monet.
So Degas was like, would you say he was like the manager?
No.
What would be his title in today's world?
I mean, Degas he had several roles over the years. By this time, he was kind of in charge of trying to bring people in, trying to make money, trying to find a venue. I think he saw himself as a leader, but he was bringing in people that were watering down, less known, less popular. People didn't give a, you know, didn't care so much about the work and the artists that he was bringing in. Some of them were his proteges in his realistic style, but it didn't. Again, I think he was trying to make it his own thing and keep it going.
Well, but it doesn't even sound like he was like. It sounds like he was making all these promises of things he would do to keep it going, and
right.
He wasn't following through with that as well. So that contributed to. I mean, I don't know where it goes from here. Obviously,
right. We got to stay tuned.
Yeah. Well,
you got to stay with the course and watch the series, and
there was a total of
8.
Okay.
8 shows. So.
Well, I mean that tells us a little bit.
Yeah. So now we're in 5. By the end of the year, you will know what happens with the Impressionists. So by December, we'll get to the 8th, but.
Well, it doesn't sound like he's steering it in the right direction. It sounds like he's making a lot of promises, making a lot of changes, and like that's why I think you have like a board nowadays. Like, so you have multiple people, different perspectives.
Right. Well, and Degas did not, as they might say, play well with others. You know, he very much had his opinions.
So was it profitable? Was it like, what's the gist of like if you had to summarize the 5th Impressionist art exhibition?
Like they went from doggy paddling, actually they went from sinking to doggy paddling to starting to swim to doggy paddling again.
Okay.
You know, to use a summertime analogy, as now the summer is coming quickly to an end, thank God, we can getting closer to fall. I like fall. I like spring. I like fall.
Fall and spring fall is my absolute favorite.
The pretty spring leaves.
The scents.
The
smells of fall, of pumpkin and acorn and apple and.
The hell does an acorn smell like?
I don't know. I have acorn spice soaps, and like I do everything natural, and that's like my Mrs. Meyer stuff is acorn spice. That's my favorite scent. Pumpkin.
Acorn. I guess
you're into the scents just as much as I am.
I'm into scents. I wouldn't know what an acorn smells like.
Well, I don't. It's just acorn spice. It has spices, and it's just.
I like fall. I like, I don't like. There are certain aspects of pumpkin that I like, but I'm not the big. Let's go get the pumpkin latte because it's fall time. I'm not into that. Pumpkin bread, pumpkin pie, pumpkin. I don't know. there are things of pumpkin that I like,
Pumpkin seeds. I love pumpkin seeds.
pumpkin seeds. When I was a kid, I liked pumpkin seeds.
That's definitely a tradition. I don't think we did it last year, but we always gut out the pumpkins and carve them and eat the seeds. Oh, I love the. What?
It's just too tribal for me. I don't know. I don't know.
I did that in the classroom one time.
I don't know.
And I let him gut a pumpkin out, and I almost had a kid. He dipped his hand in there, and as soon as he felt he just was like, but I'm like, nope, no more. Like the texture of it.
Yeah.
He just
there's the inside of the pumpkin is kind of slimy and
it's gross.
And,
it's messy.
But it's
art. It's messy.
It's a pumpkin. Anyway.
All right. So, but you gave me a description, the doggy paddling or whatever. But
right.
I mean, I wanted more of a. Like in 3 words, if you could summarize the art, that particular art exhibition.
They're barely hanging on.
That's 4 words.
That's as close as I could get. Barely hanging on.
Okay. All right. Dun, dun, dun. Wait till.
So you'll see what ends up occurring. Now, keep in mind, I mean, it's not over. There's still more to come.
Well, obviously.
In the story, there's still more of the story to be told. But
keeping you on the edge of your seat.
Right. That's how I do. I like to keep the high drama of what's to come.
Yes.
Something.
Yes.
Anyway.
All right. Well, moving on from the video of the week, I jumped into that one, which I normally don't. I normally jump into the art guides. So
yeah, well, we'll mix it
backtrack.
up. That's okay. We can shuffle things around. Although maybe people care about that sort of thing. Like they want this. They want the structure of it. But as an arty podcast, we can shuffle.
Do what we want.
So, Ask the Art Guides is our longest standing segment on Art One-on-One, I guess is what this is called.
Yes,
with
Art One-on-One.
Me. And this segment, you're the pod boss of the operation.
Yes.
And in this, we look at a Art Oracle's card to help direct our conversation. And today's art card was?
It is Jackson Pollock.
Jackson Pollock. He is a interesting character. I've made several pieces of content on Mr. Pollock over the years. I have made shorts and longs and extended things and recapped interviews and all kinds of things surrounding Jackson Pollock.
Which is interesting because his life wasn't very long. I think he died at 34? 30? In his 30s.
I don't remember. He was one of those guys that he struggled to get going, and then he got it going, and then just exploded in the art scene. And his artwork, his style is still something that people talk about to this day. And, he had a lot of personal issues around what he was doing. There are different, very contradictory things that he has said about his work. Like he has said that, there were 3 great artists of all time, and he considered himself one of the 3 greatest.
Interesting.
At the same time, he also thought that he was a failure. He was dealing with lots of substance abuse, primarily alcoholism. And as a struggling alcoholic, his wife moved the family out, him and her. That was the extent of the family. He wanted to have children, as the story goes, but she wanted absolutely no part in that.
Well, if he was struggling with all of that.
Right, well, and the fact was that his friends and his social things of in the city of New York, he was out of control. And so they moved to the country, and things got better, and he was productive, and he was doing the drip painting, and he was doing different things, and he was becoming internationally known. And, you know, he would...
So he became popular living, as he was living, not after the fact.
Yeah, and then it was like, what's Jackson Pollock going to do next? What's he going to do next? Well, he once, allegedly, I've never seen the interview, but there's an alleged quote attributed to Jackson Pollock that says something to the nature of, if I could paint or draw a hand or a face, do you think I'd be doing this shit? Meaning in reference to his drip paintings.
Right.
Saying, I can't draw anything, I can't paint anything, there's nothing I can do but sling paint around, so that's what I do.
And he talks about using it as a way to get out his feelings, as a form of therapy for him, which obviously was due to
he had
his struggles.
He had lots of issues. And,
so drip painting, action painting, what else? There was something else.
Drip painting and action painting are synonymous.
Right, I'm just saying it was also called...
Abstract Expressionism.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
And, you know, there's lots of names to it. I think a lot of times as art people, we get hung up on the name. What is the name? What is the genre? What do you call that? Well, who knows?
Well, you want to be able to classify different things.
But I think that sometimes art doesn't always really easily fit into
the box.
Into a box, right? I mean, Pollock, to some degree, does with his abstract nature and the way he was working and that sort of thing. In terms of gestural abstraction, the action painting work that he was producing with the drips and the thing, I mean, it fits, it works. But
and he never really did anything different from that. He never steered.
No, he did.
He did?
He did. He tried to be a surrealist, but he wasn't very good at it. And he tried to paint still lives and things like that, but he wasn't very good at it. That was early. And then when he kind of got to the point of abstract, I mean, he was always somewhat abstracted to some degree. He went to art school. He learned from Thomas Hart Benton, who was a very prominent artist from Missouri. We've talked about him before in one way, shape, or form on the channel. When we went to Kansas City, we saw a lot of work on Thomas Hart Benton and that sort of thing, who was a Kansas City native. But anyway, the art card. What is the conversation?
I couldn't pick today, so I can't pick.
So there's on these cards there is the life and the work and the inspiration. I think that it's only fitting to go with the life. Meaning doesn't come with titles. For years and years and years, Jackson Pollock would produce these works with titles. Moby Dick, or one of his more famous paintings was called Lavender Mist. And then he kind of got to the point where it's like, okay, he's coming up with these kind of, pretentious sort of titles for these things. I mean, they were obscure. They had no...
Right.
He was just pulling words out of a hat. He saw a book on a shelf. He just put titles on things to whatever. It had no necessarily meaning. It was just pulling out words and throwing them on a painting or attributing them to a painting. And then he started saying, okay, I'm going to start numbering them. And so it was the month, the day, the year, number 1, number 2, number, whatever. And so he went to a numbering system, which for his works makes a whole lot more sense than
trying to interpret
trying to put words onto it that have absolutely nothing to do with what he's doing.
Well, and they're very similar. I mean, it's not like and there's different colors, different...
Right, as like Lavender Mist. Obviously, with Lavender Mist, what are the colors he's using? Duh. But the meaning of the work had nothing to do with the titles. Was Pollock the greatest artist of the 20th century? Some argued that he was. Some educated people know that he's not. I mean, he wasn't.
I mean, if you look at his art, and he kind of tells you that. He kind of is like, his art was not, he said he couldn't paint. He said he couldn't.
Right.
And not that that's the definition of being an artist, but either is dripping paint on a canvas.
Right. And I nothing against Jackson Pollock and what he does and his approach and his style. I very much have an appreciation for Pollock. Otherwise, I wouldn't have talked about him 15 times. I have an appreciation for what he does. I'd love to go to New York and see his studio and see where he and his wife, Lee Krasner, worked. I would love to be able to visit those places.
Do they have their home?
Yeah, their home is
where'd you say that was?
New York.
Yeah. Their home was it? I thought they moved to the country. It stayed in New York?
Yeah. New York. New York's an interesting state in that obviously most people think of the city, but there's actually lots of farmland and country to the state of New York.
I just thought they moved to a different state for some reason.
No, they moved out in the country of New York, out into the more rural areas of New York. And anyway, so he, the title, what is the title that he's connected with? A lot of times we get hung up on titles of things. And I think it's important to remember that, just because you have a title doesn't necessarily give it meaning unless you really believe in that. And sometimes there's a meaning that's deeper even if you don't have a title attached to it.
Well, and that's with most art. A lot of it is perception and interpretation and what you feel when you look at the piece, right? You go to an exhibition or an art gallery or whatever, they want you. So that kind of putting a title on it kind of steers you in a certain direction
not just art. Absolutely in art,
right?
But not just art. I think in lots of things in life. Again, this is a life meaning, a life statement,
right?
About his life. The meaning doesn't come with a title. Just because he doesn't have the title of the greatest artist of the 20th century doesn't mean that he's not a valuable artist in the 20th century. Just because he doesn't have longevity, just because he had certain things that he thought doesn't really diminish the fact that he had a level of a success. Now, he did some horrible things in his life. He killed someone. He was driving drunk and smashed his car into a tree and killed someone and himself. And because of that, his reputation is definitely tarnished, as it should be for the actions that he did. At the same time, lots and lots and lots of people make mistakes. Lots and lots of people do things that they regret. And unfortunately, or fortunately, when we remember those that have come around, I mean, sometimes we want to put them up on a pedestal, and sometimes we want to say this is the worst person that ever lived. But at the end of the day, in every single person, whether we regard them highly or poorly, there are merits of their character that are positive and negative, and that's all of us.
Do you know where the first time I ever, I don't know that I have never heard or had never heard of Pollock until I watched a certain movie. Do you know what movie that was in?
You had never heard of Pollock until you watched a certain movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, the obvious answer that jumps to me is the movie Pollock, but I'm going to guess that it's not.
Of course, that is correct. It is not. It's one of my favorite movies. We talk about it. We've talked about it multiple times.
On the podcast, or in just in our conversations?
Just in our conversations, because there's a lot of autistic people in this movie, and
The Notebook.
There is no.
I don't.
The Notebook has no. Yes.
We've talked about The Notebook before. I don't know.
So there were two brothers in this movie, and I can't tell you a little bit about it because that's the name of the movie. But so there's all these people behind this, like.
If you know what she's talking about, put it down in the comments.
There's all these. So there's this operation that's running. One is good, one is bad. But behind it are these brilliant-minded students that are autistic. And I'm kind of giving away the movie, but I can't believe this is so disappointing. Ben Affleck, is that how you say his name? Was the main character in it.
Good Will Hunting.
Oh my gosh. The accountant.
Oh, the accountant.
Remember?
Yeah.
She was in his trailer, and she's like,
yeah.
That is not, I don't know what specific one it was, but and he's like, yep, that's an original.
Yeah. Yeah, The Accountant.
If you haven't seen The Accountant, that is such a good movie.
Again, I don't, when I think of the movie The Accountant, I don't instantly think of Jackson Pollock, but
obviously, because it's a very small piece in it, but it's actually a very large piece.
I also wouldn't say it's filled with autistic people. I mean, there's like the main character's autistic or on the spectrum. But so are the. We're gonna ruin it for people if they haven't watched it. So it's a really good movie. Leave it at that.
And Pollock was that. That's where I learned about him. Well,
good. I'm glad you didn't learn about it on Art 101 or Art 101 or whatever the heck I'm talking about.
I think it was like it was pre-knowing you in Art 101, Art 101, 101. So
that could be.
So although you've been around for Art 101 has been around for
eons.
6 years, really?
6 years.
If I look at video-wise, 6 years.
No.
Okay, when was your first
Art 101 video?
101.
My first Art 101 video was created in 2007, November the 20th.
Okay, so how many years was it in between your next video then? Because when I go back...
2007, I made one video.
Okay, well that doesn't really count.
2008, I made one video.
Let's talk about consistency. Consistency for Art 101 started when?
Well, I just told you, I made my first one in 2007, second one in 2008.
It took you a long time to make that.
The next video after that was, I believe, 2016.
So how many years ago was that?
What? Well...
7, 8? 7?
It's 2023. So I would say that's...
2026 is 10. So...
Yeah.
You really started consistently doing it about 4 years ago, though. Let's be honest.
I mean, I've made a lot... I've been making lots more pieces of content and lots of different types of content, but that's also because I wanted to promote the product on different formats. So I started making the short videos because I wanted to create a following on TikTok, because my belief was that if I had a following on TikTok, that would help my YouTube channel grow, and my YouTube channel would help my TikTok, and so there would be kind of this building. And so then I started making detailed videos because I started seeing a lot of the people that were making content, making short little clips of their really long podcasts or their long videos, and they were dicing those up into small segments that they were just putting out on their own. So I started making the details to kind of follow that trend that I saw with other content creators. Those things have to some degree worked.
So YouTube though was about consistency on YouTube, because that's what I'm looking at, Journey into the Archives, which we'll talk about next, but that really started being consistent about 4 years ago when I'm looking at the archives.
Well, I
don't know about other platforms. I'm just talking about YouTube in general.
I'm saying that there's lots of pieces of content that are out there, and I honestly don't know when. I know that I've got videos that are way older than that, older than 4 years.
You do.
But there again,
there's some that I've done that are 6 years when we've journeyed into the
and I'm also looking at other options of trying to remove videos.
You keep saying that
from this format and putting it and moving it to another bunker, but
no, you don't keep saying that. I thought you were going to say moving some videos out of there that don't pertain to art.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
I do want to. I mean, that's a goal. It's just one of those things where, I mean, to take and to download the video and then re-import the video and move them around. I mean, and there's hundreds of videos.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't want to lose my history, but at the same time to put it out as new content is also like, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Well,
I don't know.
Interestingly enough, my journey into the archives was on Jackson Pollock.
No.
It was a long one, and that's why I had a little bit of time to watch it, and so it was like a 30-minute one, and I don't know.
So which one was it? Was it the...
It was a 30-minute one, and you actually had... I really loved this. You need to incorporate this again. You had a guest speaker on there. You had Andy Golightly.
Oh, Andy Golightly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really... So, which one was it? I don't know.
That's the Jackson Pollock video. That's the just about him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one I watched.
And Andy Golightly is a somewhat, I guess we'll call him a local art teacher. He actually began his career student teaching with me, and he's really into the abstraction and that sort of thing. And when he was beginning his career as an art teacher, he was in my classroom a lot, and he learned some things from me, and I learned some things from him. And I said, hey, I'm doing this podcast. I'd love to have you on there and talk about whatever. And he's like, yeah, no, I'll do it. So, I compensated him for his time, and he's a great guy, and like I said, a local artist, local art teacher, educator, yeah.
I thought it was cool. I love it. Is that the only one you've ever done with a guest like that?
That's the only one I've ever done with a guest like that. And actually, we actually talked about doing another video together on Mark Rothko, who is another abstract artist, but that video has not yet been made. So it's possible that I'll do a Mark Rothko with Andy Golightly in the future. But again, there's nothing in the works as of yet. But I also really enjoyed working with him on that. And
I think it was just cool you having a conversation and having different perspective, and especially an artist, obviously, because I am not one of those, an art educator or artist, but I enjoyed that specific video because of the interaction and the conversation, and you talked about not only his art, Pollock's art, but you also talked about his life too, with his wife, Lee. Yeah, Lee Krasner. And so I thought that was interesting as well. It was a longer video, but I actually stayed, it was interesting to watch. I watched the whole thing.
It was a long video, but I actually watched it. Well, good.
Well, 30 minutes. I think it's like a 30-minute video.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
longer one.
It's not a little video.
Yeah, but some interest, the bringing his wife into it and the life and what was going on and his struggles. I don't know. I just thought it was a good, probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite so far. Although the one on the girl going to school, What was that one?
A Problem We All Live With.
That still is probably my favorite.
Yeah,
so this might be my
that's
second.
Norman Rockwell. What is on the Nichole scale? Is this a 1? Is it a 10? Where are we at on the rating scale? If you're recommending this, obviously you've said a lot of positives about it, but where does this sit on the scale? I guess
There's nothing I really didn't like about that one. To be truthful, your intro was a little bit different. But the content was great. The length of it, was good. I don't know. I'm going to say,
considering it's an hour
what
long.
did I give? Half an hour long. What did I give my first favorite? What did I give that one?
Honestly, I should probably write this stuff down.
I was gonna give it a 9.5, but
well, you gave A Problem We All Live With a 9. You've never given a 9.5.
I really struggled, but overall I liked it because you brought in I liked having you, listening to you have the conversation and have that different perspective, and it was a little bit longer, so a little bit more informative. As far as art history, I think it would have been a 9.5.
What would you give the video at the end of the day?
I said a 9.5. It's one of it. Overall, it's definitely
okay.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. And I think Pollock is. All artists are just the stories behind how they got into art, why they do art. With Pollock, it was, I think it helped him to survive, honestly. If he didn't have art, I think if he didn't have that outlet, he would have died. I know his wife was, but I
Lee Krasner kept him alive, but I also agree. I agree with you. His artwork kept him alive as long as it did, but I also think that his demons eventually caught up with him, and unfortunately, those are hard ones to battle.
Well, you can only control so much,
So, well, right. I guess we're at that point.
Yes, I think we need to wrap things up. Another episode in the books, and hopefully everyone enjoyed it. If you liked the video, hit like, subscribe, follow us on all of the other platforms. Well, Mr. Burgher on all of the other platforms out there. We appreciate all of the support, and we look forward to coming to you with our next video.
That's right.
Podcast.
And the podcast, the videos, all of the things, we appreciate your attentiveness and attention and clicking the buttons that are positive, and hopefully we can bring you more content in the coming days. So until then, hopefully it's a good one for you. And we'll see you next time.